Hello, I am so excited to invite you back to the Eternal Possibility Hour, where I interview ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And today, my guest is Nicole Wilde, who is a handcrafted ice cream entrepreneur here in Duluth, Minnesota, where I live. And we've been friends for quite some time. I've been following her journey from near the beginning, and I am so excited to introduce her to you and share her beautiful gifts with the world. Hi,
Thanks.
Nicole.
Hi, thanks for having me, Esther. And yes, you have been one of my loyal followers, I feel like from the beginning, if not, close to the beginning.
Close to the beginning, before you were in your house making batch ice cream for people, but when you were out in the community, yeah, I found you very early on. I am a big
Yes, you
fan of
did.
ice cream and all of your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell me how all this got started. Did you plan to become an ice cream entrepreneur in Duluth, Minnesota?
I didn't know I was going to be in Duluth, Minnesota, but no, it's funny. It's not, no one, there wasn't um, I wasn't one of these folks who woke up one day and at age 15 or whatever and said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to have an ice cream store. I probably wouldn't have even said I'd been an entrepreneur, owning my own business or growing a business. But I am happy that I did somehow have a fork in the road, that this little idea popped up, and I tried it out. And over time, it actually blossomed into something which is now my full-time employment today, which I would have never thought I could do. And I would say probably the seeds of the idea came when I love gardening, I love farming, and I did want to do something with that business wise a long time ago. And every time I would come up with an idea, it just seemed like I can't do that. That's too big, or I don't know how to do this. And eventually one day I decided, like, maybe if I just do one thing, one little product, and try and figure out how to do that well instead of biting off this huge chunk of an idea, and just see if that can go somewhere. And having grown up in Wisconsin, and my first job was at a custard stand, and I know how to make ice cream. I know how it's made at what that point, and know that I can use local ingredients in that product. Farming ingredients. It seemed like, well, let me see if that can go someplace. And that was like 15 years ago now. So it's been quite the journey. And, today now I have a thriving little business, which I'm very proud of.
Yes, and I was remiss in not even saying what your business is. Your business is Love Creamery.
Yes, my business is Love Creamery. We're a handcrafted artisan ice cream company. We have a couple retail locations and some wholesale, and do a lot of little events in the summer and catering in the Twin Ports area of Duluth and Wisconsin, Duluth and Superior.
Yes, and when people say handcrafted ice cream, that's such a kind of a thing now, right? Artisan this, artisan that, handmade this, handmade that. But you actually mean it and live it, from the berries that you source locally all the way through the really, truly unique flavors of ice cream, both dairy based and vegan, gluten free, which is like
Yeah.
amazing because there aren't a lot of ice cream makers out there who are taking the effort to actually serve the community in specialty areas. So tell me about all of that.
Yeah, and I think Esther, you hit on that serving the community piece, because I think I could have done another product, and it would have worked with the local ingredients. And I think I'd still be at the same space. Like, it would just be a different product, but at the core of what I believe we should be doing is really serving the community. So thinking about who, not looking at it so much as like, oh, we're going to mass market something, but who's within a vicinity of our store, and what are their needs. And of course, then we have climate, and what can you grow in our in our climate. We include things like chocolates that don't, cacao doesn't grow here, but, and that piece with the vegan, I guess when I started it, I did say to myself, I want to make sure that a family can come in to our store and every single one of those people can have something that they like. And that's when, you start thinking about allergens and people that have, we're not there yet, by the way, because we still have a promise to make like a sugar-free ice cream, and we've made it. We're just not proud of it yet. So we need to work on it. We're not going to put something out that's like, you're not quite there. But so, we're always working on stuff. That's innovation in a business. But so those things that are for lactose intolerance or vegans or vegetarians, we want to make sure that everybody can come in or at least 98% of the people can come in and have something. And it's not the child's like, I can't have ice cream with my family, or the mom who's like, I have this allergy, or whatever the case may be. So that's really at the heart, I think, of what we do, in addition to really having that focus on the local foods as much as we can. Yeah. And trying to source locally and pick the berries, and we grow the berries, some of the berries, and we partner with other businesses and farmers in town that grow berries, and or rhubarb or basil or whatever the case may be that we're, whatever flavor we're making. And then we have to process it. So for instance, right now we had our community rhubarb exchange where we ask community members to bring in rhubarb, and then we give them free ice cream. It's a barter, like the old days of barter. But then we have to, wash the rhubarb. We have to chop it up, and then we have to cook it down and pasteurize it. And then we turn it into jams, and, and all of that is real. I mean, you do that at home. It's the same stuff you do at home. We're just doing it in a probably more volume than somebody would do at home, right? And then serve that to the community. And all of that, again, I think is another way of connecting with our community. Not everybody wants, people don't know you can only have so many rhubarb crisps. It's like, oh, mom's making that one more time.
We have the whole rhubarb festival is next weekend. So yeah, there's a lot of rhubarb, and I'm sure people are thrilled to be able to help you make ice cream out of it.
They are. We had to stop. We got so much rhubarb. We had to stop. We're like, oh, we can't take anymore. We just didn't have the space. That's really, the space is always an issue.
So that is an example. Rhubarb in ice cream. You just don't find that in every mom and pop ice cream store around the United States or even in the world. So
no.
Talk to me about interesting and exotic flavors and where that started and how it's evolved over time and how you continue to innovate.
Yeah. So, well, first off, I think with, something like rhubarb, we are people that are, live in the North, from any sort of Scandinavian communities, have experienced rhubarb. And so I've known rhubarb in my diet, for quite some time. So to me, adding rhubarb to an ice cream was like a no-brainer. I was just like, oh yeah, we can do that. It's just this beautiful. We can make it into a jam and ripple it in, or we can make something and throw it in the ice cream. And that didn't seem exotic to me. But when I started playing with different herbs like basil and even thyme and sage, and then some things that don't grow here so much, like turmeric or curries, most of that I think came from seeing, like, if I had to like tie into another industry, it might be breweries or perhaps bakeries, where they have historically used a lot of different, ingredients in their products. And so to me, it was like, well, why wouldn't I do that with ice cream? And now a lot of the flavors you do see at ice cream stores across the country and internationally, I think it's just one more culinary segment that has gone off the deep edge, maybe some would say, on what they add to ice cream. We don't get as exotic as some places do. Some places really gets incredibly exotic. I just think that we like to look at different flavors. And I don't even use the word exotic, to be quite honest. I just say from a cultural standpoint, we're using foods that are maybe exotic here in Duluth, but they aren't exotic in, say, Sri Lanka or in France or in Peru. And so we're just using things that are in desserts around the world, and we're just putting them in our ice cream. And of course, we want it to taste good. And sometimes it doesn't always taste good. And then we try not to serve it. We don't serve it. It's got to pass the like team's taste buds, at least 3 of them, to say, yeah, this is good.
Would you mind sharing an epic fail?
Well, geez, it's just hops, beer, ice cream. I know people love it, and you can do really good things with beer, but the hoppier that beer is, like a really strong IPA, I mean, it just doesn't pair well with cream. There are ways to do it. Like if I actually took like the beer, if I didn't take the beer, if I took the recipe for the beer and then did a colder infusion with the hops, I could probably make it happen. But that's like more work that I want to do around a flavor that probably most people are going to buy anyways. But when I did put it in the real hoppy stuff, it was awful. It's bitter. You heat it and it gets really bitter. But you can take something like a stout or like a milk stout, and then you can generally make those work. But like as milk stout says, it already has a lactose in it. I don't know if actually it does lactose in it, but it has a dairy product in it. So that one brewery asked me to make it. I made a bunch of batches, and I just like, oh, we're done on this one. No more.
But you have paired with breweries and doing an ice cream beer combination. You had done that with Blacklist downtown a couple of years ago.
So, I mean, we can do floats. Those are great. That's where you're taking a beer and then just putting the ice cream in, and that can pair really well. But our process when we're making ice cream is we're basically repasteurizing it. So we're bringing it to temperature. So that creates a chemistry. It's a chemistry situation that's taking place. So it's changing the flavor. But yes, we do floats. We actually make, our Lincoln Park location has a beer and wine license, and we will make Prosecco with ice cream, or I don't know, a Blacklist beer with ice cream into a shake. People make shakes out of them. It basically pays for the license every year, where people are not coming in and getting these often, but sometimes people are coming in for dessert and somebody really just wanted to have an alcoholic drink, and now they can have their drink while somebody else is having their ice cream. So we do it. It's fun. It's nothing we really push, though. It's like you kind of need to come in and know about it, and then we'll make it.
I actually, that's news to me. I actually didn't know that was happening. But I remember talking to you early on about the possibility of hosting or marketing to people who wanted to come in and have private groups.
Yep.
Like celebrations or wedding celebrations, or, small anniversary celebrations where they kind of rent out the space and then you provide this ice cream drink combination.
Yeah. Well, we have done that a little. This winter, we have done that with some parties in Canal Park. Or if we're closed, we've done some with kids in the mornings. So yeah, it's not something we've really marketed. It might be something we'll look at doing more this year, because we did have quite a couple of good successful parties last year. And what's interesting is they have predominantly been with, companies or groups from the cities who are coming up. And they want to do something private with, maybe they're coming up for skiing, or maybe they're coming up for curling or something. There's an event, there's a number of folks, and they're looking for something interesting to do. And those have been fairly successful. So it's fun. And, for us, it's just more about space. And then in this time of year, we just can't do it because it's our season, right? And if we are closed for parties, we're not open to our customers.
Right. Of course. Yes, of course. Yeah. It's nonstop ice cream here at Love Creamery.
Nonstop ice.
All summer long.
All summer long. Absolutely.
Yeah. I actually overheard somebody say, it's cold out, we should be eating ice cream.
Well,
And
there's, I haven't, I mean, I've read, I've looked that up and I've read articles about it. And there is this, what I've read is you actually, when you eat fat, your body has to process that fat. And that to turn, I guess, to digest fat takes a lot of energy. So it's
Mhm.
actually something that you can eat and actually will warm your body. It may be cold when you first eat it, but the outcome is warming your body. Um, and um, fat is something like is in the winter is not necessarily a bad thing. You're using more energy, especially in this area in cold climates, and you can certainly benefit from adding a little more fat from your diet. It doesn't have to be ice cream, right? It could be an avocado. I'm not trying to make that case, but and it's interesting. The thing is, we are open year round. It is not. I mean, most of this is to keep that group of the community who really just wants the ice cream. We're committed to that. We do have some wholesale, but it's keeping people employed too year round. I don't want to be one of these businesses where we're just every year, okay, sorry, go find another job, or obviously for college students, high school students, that's fine. But we have professionals working now for us, making the ice cream. And during those times, it's a lot slower. But what's funny is, so our sales are down, except for when it's mega cold out, like those polar vortexes. We get people who are, we have super busy days, and it's almost like people are like, it is so cold. Let's own this and let's go eat some ice cream. And they do, they come in and I think, oh my gosh, 20 below. All right, they're here. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
funny.
I know that actually is where I loved your comment about the fat. I feel like sugar also warms the body up when it processes. So that kind of does make sense for eating in cold climates. But I think that the comment that I overheard was more of a like an emotional comment of that speaks to Duluthians in particular. Like ice cream is an all year round thing.
Yes.
And just because it might be 20 below doesn't mean that we shouldn't be out eating ice cream. And in particular, Love Creamery.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really fun. I have a friend who I was with recently, visiting, and they were really funny and said, how's your business doing? I'm saying, we're doing pretty good. The sales are there, but we also know how to spend money really well. So, I've got to get that under control a little bit. And, we were talking about sales, and this is somebody that understands business and knows business. And they were like, wow, I can't believe what you're doing. And he goes, especially in the climate that you live in. I would have never thought that you'd have sales beyond those summer months. And I think a lot of people think that, people are like, you're open year round. And I get people here in town like, you're open year round still. And I'm like, yes, we are open year round. It's really funny.
Yeah. Well, I think it speaks to the quality of your product.
Mm,
You are sourcing locally, you're using real food. I mean, if you pick up a container of ice cream in the grocery store, there's a whole long list of ingredients there that you can barely pronounce. And you're using real live, things you use in your kitchen, not things that come out of a lab.
yeah. Yeah. I'd say, what's interesting is, when I went to do my first training at Penn State's Ice Cream University, um, way back. Um, I went there and there was like this, people from all over the world go to this. So you've got people from Unilever who now own Ben and Jerry's to the mom and pops, and I would say 70% are the big corporations and 30% might be mom and pop group. And then maybe 5% of us, I should say maybe 25% are mom and pop, but there's like 5% of us who've never really we don't have a business yet. We're thinking about it. We're trying to learn. And, we were talking about making our everything from scratch. And there's some it's, there are, laws against around milk and dairy as there are around, meat and, beer. that are quite stingent. So to just take raw milk and bring it in and turn it into ice cream is, you would need like $1 million plant. Okay. But you work with a dairy to make your recipe, your base recipe. And that's what we do. And then we modify it every time it comes in. So our base recipe is the cream, milk, sugar, and egg. We have egg in ours to more of a custard style, because that's what I grew up with. And then we add in, I don't know, caramel that we make from sugar and cream, or, it's like, that's what we do. But when I was at this training, they were telling me you had to use, like literally had to use guar gums and the carrageenans and the things that you can't pronounce. If you wanted to make any money, you had to use corn syrup. You couldn't use cane sugar. And I threw away that corn syrup comment and all of that, but I was like really thinking like, you really can't make ice cream. Yeah, because they said if it freezes and thaws, it will get ice crystals. And when I finally, when one of my disaster stories is right before I opened, the dairy that I'd been working with like burnt down 6 weeks before opening our first store. All the cows were fine, but of course the business was not. And we didn't now have a source. We had no source of our organic dairy. We had an organic dairy now. We have a sustainable one now. But at any rate, another friend of mine who owns Pump House Creamery in the cities, we basically both got our dairy from this one dairy, and they had guar gum in it. And both of us are like, well, we have to have that for what we both believe the same thing. Well, we finally joined with another dairy and redid our dairy recipe and took out all of that. And we were like, okay, is this going to work? And it's worked just fine. So it's a lot of these ingredients, I think, are just to reduce costs. Like I could use like a guar gum or a carrageenan or locust bean gum. There's a bunch of them out there. And it would preserve the product longer, and you could have a longer shelf life. So there's benefits to that. But I could also make it almost the viscosity, like the mouthfeel of something similar to what we make, with like a third less the cream. So it's a cost saving. It's really about profits at the end of the day. And yeah, we would love to have more profits, but then we have walked away from our mission. So it's all a challenge, but
Yeah. So talk to me about that, about the faith that it takes to take your one idea that you've no idea whether it's going to go anywhere, and then walk it and baby step it, and you've really scaled. I mean, when I met you, you were doing small event. I mean, not small events, maybe 400 or 500 people events, but with an ice cream cart for a day or a weekend. And now you have 2 hard stores and a huge staff of people, both making ice cream and serving ice cream, serving the public. And you're working with all of these farmers and also artists who have done some beautiful murals in your spaces. And you've been so, from me watching you grow from the very beginning when I first interviewed you years and years ago until now, every time I come into one of your stores, I notice something new. Either it's a beautiful sign, or the sidewalk spacing you did during the pandemic, or some beautiful decoration, or a local artist mural. And every time I think, here's a new innovation that Nicole is doing, and I am so impressed. I am impressed every single time I see something you're doing. And that takes thought, and it takes courage, and it takes bravery to really live your mission and walk your talk, and not allowing the business side of it. I mean, obviously you need to pay your people, you need to buy the ingredients, pay your farmers, you need to pay yourself. But I think that sometimes companies start out with this idea and they have all the great intentions. And then within 5-10 years, they've kind of veered off into less quality, more quantity. The employees aren't quite as happy. And your whole mission that you state in your stores is, we have happy, friendly people serving you, happy, friendly ice cream. And we want you to feel the love that's in that, which is in the name, Love Creamery. So talk to me about how you kind of balance all of that and stay true to who you are and why you started this.
Well, first, Esther, it's really nice to hear somebody notice that. because it's a challenge, to continue to do all those things as we grow. I, when I started out, I couldn't even say I was going to do all those things. It was sort of an evolution that it just built, it sort of just built as I went along. And, I would say that there's been people along the journey who have influenced, obviously, me in many ways, and things that they say or notice, or sharing ideas, or providing positive reinforcement. I mean, positive reinforcement is such a great thing, because it's like, okay, so that was really worth the time. That's really okay. We're going to go deeper there then, and I'm surprised by myself, to be quite honest, because I have historically been somebody who did something, never mastered it, but like, good enough. I know how to do that. Next, move on to the next thing. I get bored. I mean, you could even just see my resume. I get bored fast. And so to stay committed to this for so long has been really interesting and surprising to me of myself. But I think part of it is it's always changing and it's always evolving, and those innovations make it not boring, right? It's like, we did this now. What are we doing next? How are we gonna surprise somebody else, that like that sugar-free ice cream, or whatever the case may be. But mostly I think, along the way, I started little, and it was little, as you said, that little cart, and doing small events, and then maybe expanding a little bit more, and trying to do wholesale, and, selling at somebody's cafe, and all of those were slow going. And I think that has been one of the reasons I've stayed along with it as well, is I didn't bite off too much. I may have recently bit off too much, which I'll share with you in a minute, but, it just slowly scaled it and just stayed the course. I mean, I used to run long distance, and sometimes it's just a part of settling in, getting your breath, looking at the beauty around you, and just keep going one foot after another. And I think that's really probably the best analogy of how I feel, moving over time. This business has been, the evolution of things. And I didn't get, if there, for instance, the first store at Love Creamery, had I not gotten the financing, I wouldn't be there. So there are things that could happen that are roadblocks. And would I have really been so passionate to fight for to get money? And I mean, I've already put in most of my savings anyways to the business. But those things, fortunately, I think, much out of luck. Sure, people saw the work and people liked the product, but there are things along the way that have helped me continue to move forward. So it's, like I said, it's been surprising to me. It surprises me some days how I'm like, oh my gosh, here we are trying something new. We're going to continue to grow this. And this year is the first, it's been a full year and about a little less than a month that I haven't been teaching full time too. So that's been really interesting as well. So I've basically now gotten to the phase where I'm willing to give up that steady income and insurance and everything to now focus more on the business to help really get and, grow the business further.
Wow. Exciting. So exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that it's your story as a wonderful metaphor for life. How, nobody comes out of the womb being able to run a marathon, but one little step and stumble at a time, they get there.
Yeah, they totally get there.
And they get through people saying, hey, walk this way, hold your head up, keep going forward. You stumbled, that's okay. Get back up. You're doing great work. And it really takes they say a village and a whole community, because we're all connected to each other and all interacting with each other. And it's really beautiful. It's been beautiful for me to watch you grow.
Well, that's really fun. And I really think that that is true. I believe that, when I hear people like, I did it all myself, it's like, I don't think you did. I really don't. How could you possibly do that all by yourself? If even anything, if you're even providing a service or whatever, you have customers. Somebody's your customer, right? And they're there with you on that journey as well. They can choose to go, maybe there's some things that you can go to or you can't go to another person or business for, but not much. So yeah, I think that, and the other thing was just coming back to the running analogy is like, you just, you learn how to run better. You learn that there's different shoes you can wear and how to take nutrition in, and just when you've hit your limit and how to take care of your body and all of those things. And I think in a business, it's the same thing. It might be different. It might be like, how do you train your employees, and how do you hire good employees, and how do you provide a good work environment, and how do you ensure your product is good quality consistently, and just all of those things. It's just different, but they're all taking care of your business. And ultimately, in my mind, again, it's coming back to the customer as well, and staff, which is really important too.
And taking care of yourself through all of it. Since you're leading the ship.
Yeah, exactly. Very important. That is very important. I have learned that really. I've been a worker my whole life, so I just work. Like, I like to do things. I like to be doing things. It doesn't have to be work, but yeah, just as I'm getting older too, your body, you get tired faster, or those things. And I'm really learning, like, yeah, I just really have to, more so than ever at this point, make sure, like today I worked out in the morning. It was the first thing I did. And I wanted to make sure, because of my day, I had a podcast interview and I have people I have to meet with. And so I wanted to get that. I didn't want to lose that by the end of the day. If somebody calls in sick or whatever, I'm like, hey, get up, just do it. The start in the morning, and make sure you get that. Make sure you eat good, eat well. But I'm learning, more and more important, because it's mental health. It's your attitude. It's how you make decisions, your motivation, handling stress, all of those things. And that all relates on how you're running your business. So, and your relationships. I mean, that's same kind of, I think, in my mind, how are you interacting with people around you that you care for?
Yes, definitely. So you brought some pictures, kind of a presentation with you. And I think it would be helpful to share that with those who are watching. And then you can kind of talk us through like how this all began. And
Sure.
I'm going as if I have the controls. I don't have the controls. You have the controls.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Let me turn my email off, because I realize that those might be coming through as people are emailing me. Hold on. Okay. Share screen and share. Here we go. Does that look?
Yes, that looks beautiful. And there it is, the beautiful logo.
So there's the brand, Love Creamery. And this is, so my partner in crime, I've been with him for 15, 16 years now. He actually named the business, and he always likes that I give him credit for that. He's like, I'm a marketing genius. He's a pilot, a very, very good pilot, and a super supporter of mine. Definitely 100%. But I did, we were trying to come up with a name when I decided that I'm like, let's just go, like, I'm making a lot of ice cream. Let's see if we can like sell some at this point. And he said, oh, well, how about Love Creamery? I don't know if he said Love Creamery, but he did say love. And he said, because, it just embodies everything you're doing, and people love ice cream. And I thought, oh, okay, done. And then I had reached out to a local artist to try and make a logo. Actually, this isn't an original one. I'll show you that in a minute. I'll tell you that story in a minute. I'm going to flip forward here. So this is our mission. to be the most loved ice cream in the communities we serve. So that comes back to, we're focusing on the ice cream, and ice cream can be the vegan ice creams. People get very semantics of ice cream, the word ice cream, but this is our most loved ice cream in the communities we serve. So we do have the ability to modify our business if we move to another community that might have some, we can relate to all the allergens, but there might be other things that we might do that might meet a community's need that's maybe different in the cities. But the ice cream is at the core. And our vision is just to make the world healthier, one happier place, one scoop at a time. This is Marley. Marley was my very first employee, and she's now married and has a child. And it's interesting how people have moved on. So this was the original logo. I had this designed I got off Etsy. I had a woman off Etsy I found. I wanted this block art, and I had asked somebody locally, but I mean, I had no money. I was like, had zero money for this endeavor, and they wanted a lot of money, and they were worth every single penny, but it was not in my budget. I think it was like $5,000 or something. And I'm like, I do not have $5,000. So then I went on Etsy and I just looked for somebody that had block art. And it's interesting. I found this woman. She had like all this cute like block art of peas in a pot and, just stuff I thought was so cute, vegetables. And I texted her, and she had a price for doing a custom piece. And I said, I want this ice cream cone with wings, and it's kind of angelic and with Love Creamery. And literally in a day, she comes back with this. And I'm like, perfect, it's great. And it turns out, so she sent it from her work, the final file from her work address. And she was like, professor of graphic design at UC Berkeley or something. I was like, wow. Oh, she just, doing stuff on the side. It's interesting. And then of course we had it converted because a lot of older people couldn't actually see it was an ice cream cone when we started like rolling it out. So a local woman in town here who does JC Copal redesigned it for us. This is the Penn State School, Penn State Berkeley Creamery. This is the class that I attended. So this is where I had been making ice cream, but I attended this course because folks told me it was the place to go to learn how to make ice cream. It was more corporate than I needed. And Madison has a course. So go there if you want to make ice cream. Do not know to go to Penn State, although this is a good course. But it might be for advanced people. I would say I would get more out of it today than I did back in, I think, 2010, whenever I went. This is my first ice cream machine. I'm getting ice cream all over me, but you can see it's just a little gelato machine. So these are the batches I was making, these very small. I think this was a 3-quart ice cream maker. So initially I was packing ice cream just in Tupperware and making it, giving it to friends. And I did that for quite many, 3-4 years, I want to say, until I moved into a community commercial kitchen in Superior, where I started making my ice cream so I could sell it, because you have to be in a commercial kitchen legally. When you're working with ice cream, you have to work with the Department of Agriculture above and beyond the health department. So I needed to be in a facility that was licensed, and I could have my license in. So this place was great. It's a great place. These community commercial kitchens are great places for anybody that wants to start a food business, because you don't have to buy all the equipment. You just pay hourly. You get your license. You can bring in some equipment if you need it. Of course, they didn't have an ice cream maker, so I brought in mine. And I brought in my own freezers, but they have walk-ins in the stove, and they had some other machinery that I could use to process a lot of the rhubarb per se, whatever I was making. That's Marley. So Marley's processing here mint, fresh mint from our, we've got a farm, a small hobby farm north of 2 harbors, and I planted a lot of mints and blueberries and raspberries. So we're just processing this for mint ice cream. And here's what the dairy looked like right before I opened. So this is Cristobal Dairy, and they did have a fire before I was opening the first store. And I was really really freaking out because of course I felt bad for the business, absolutely. But the self-centered Nicole was also, and I say self-centered because I literally had invested and took all this money out to open the store. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do in this? I don't have a dairy. But everything worked out. So, silver linings, but this was a very stressful time for me. And again, feeling incredibly bad for this dairy at the exact same time. It was very stressful. But Autumnwood Dairy stepped up and now is making all of our ice cream bases, as well as a number of other people's ice cream bases. They've started to build a business. So they have now really, I think, benefited from joining us to make now bases for other businesses and their own recipes. Everyone has their own recipes that they're making. This was the first ice cream cart. Maybe this is the one, Esther, that you maybe saw. This was the very first like logo branding first summer that we were out. This is at UMD's farmers market. So that was my first day ever selling. And we just sold, that was 2014. And that was just one day. I was like, okay, we're done. We'll do it next year.
That is so fun.
It's like had it. But it did, people came out, there's a line to me that was like, whoa, they really like the ice cream. At the same time, I really didn't know what I was doing. I knew how to make ice cream, but I didn't know that you had to temper off ice cream once you pull it out of like the 40 below freezer. So it was like rock hard and I was trying to scoop it and it was terrible. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I didn't get that in the ice cream training course, or I missed that detail. And then we got a second cart. So we could do multiple events because at this time there was no retail location. So really you have, with events, it's summer. It's the only time you can sell it. And if there's 2 events on a weekend, you want to be there at both events. So we got the second cart and we still use both of those a lot for weddings and graduations. And we still do some festivals. Here's the cart down at Park Point. We sell at the end of Park Point, which is a beautiful beach in Duluth. And at the very end, there's an airport and they have some real estate and they gave me a license to set up and sell on that real estate location. So it's really fun.
Do you still do that, Nicole?
We do, but we're not doing it this year because the airport got some funding to redevelop, to basically build out their facility there. So this summer we're taking off and hopefully it'll be done next summer. And it'll be nice because they'll actually have a place for people to sit. There'll be a canopy for coverage. Right now we're just kind of out in the open, which has always been hard because it's so windy down there sometimes. So I'm really excited about that. And so should other folks, because I think they hope to entertain food trucks and other things down there.
Yeah, that is exciting. I will look forward to that. We used to love going down to the beach. It was always this beautiful little surprise. I'm like, oh, Love Creamery's here. It was like the ice cream truck coming through your neighborhood, your childhood neighborhood. You're like, the ice cream man. We're like, oh my gosh, the beach and Love Creamery.
And ice cream.
Fabulous.
And a beautiful hike. It's it's a special place. This is a very special place, I think.
Yeah.
This is one. Oh, and then we partnered with Mrs. Delicious, who's no longer Mrs. Delicious, but she was a brand in herself and, rode around her bike, making everybody in Duluth happy. And she carried our ice cream. She was really important to me because she really, like I was questioning, what people like the ice cream and how will I sell it? And what ingredients should I use? And she just reinforced and some of the things I was doing and just, somebody there who got it and made sure I knew that they got it and really encouraged me along. So I have a very fondness for Stacy, Mrs. Delicious. And then we started doing more wholesale. So now we sell at Glensheen, Great Lakes Aquarium, Hoops Brewing. We've got about 18 locations that we sell at now. And these are like some pints, but a lot of like ice cream sandwiches or self-serve things that people can purchase while they're, visiting these locations. And this was my initial packaging. I had glass return containers. But I did get some questions from the health department and concerns with glass being in freezers, and it turned into just be kind of so much of an irritant. We did trade out the glass for traditional packaging. These were the original labels for ice cream sandwiches that we do. We partner with a bakery. They make the cookies and we make the ice cream, and then we put them together, and they're super yummy. And this is the first storefront. So this is our first store that we opened, and this is what it looked like when we rented it. This was the inside, and it had been in a fire at one point. We had to redo the brick and just slowly building it out. And then we opened the store, and we started doing other products like cakes, which are wildly popular now. We get lots and lots of cake orders. These were our second round of pints. So we moved from the glass, and there's just an evolution, like the packaging. And I mean, we are committed to compostable packaging. I would say 80% of our products are packaged compostable, but there's some products you can't get yet as compostables. And ironically, all of the compostable companies are in Taiwan. So you'll go through like an eco products, but they're just a company that uses another company in a different country. So there's that non-sustainable impact piece there, but don't get me down that path. And then this is what the store looks like now with all the staff. No, this is 2 years ago staff for the summer. But you can see how we have somewhat branded it here. And this is Michael. So Michael is now a production operations manager. So I have a production operations manager who now oversees all the ice cream making, which has been great. And I don't have to be up until 3 a.m. anymore making ice cream when we run out. We've got a whole team. We've actually got 6 ice cream makers right now for summer. We have more in the summer. And that's one of the murals behind. These are, some of the staff that we have working with us. A number of these staff have been with us for 4-5 years, believe it or not. So people stick around and some don't, but that's how it goes. And then this is a beautiful drawing by beautiful Anna Brennan, who has done our mural inside this store, quite the talent. And she just sketched up one. We were looking to go into an old subway, what it could potentially look like. So we were just designing the front. It doesn't look exactly like this, but it's similar. So this is the second store in Canal Park. And, we had a 10-year plan. This is when I first started, we were going to have 10 stores and dedicated production plant and support a retail and wholesale outlets and achieve zero waste. Achieving zero waste is hard. But we do try and move towards that. But it's difficult. I don't think we'll have 10 stores. I don't think that's the goal anymore. But we do want to have a production plant. And we did just sign a lease with a company in Superior, Wisconsin. And we're currently gutting out a building to be a production place and also retail. So I'm excited about that. So some of this is happening. Some of it's changed. Business plans change, and who knows where that will go. But as you said, Esther's like, the more you grow, quality can sometimes fade. Or you just get an accountant involved and all they want to do is margins. And I get that because you need those to grow. Like if there's no margins and there's no profit, how are you going to grow your business and pay your staff? And we continuously increase our staff wages, right? So we provide livable wages, and that comes at a cost, right? Our payroll is very, very high to do that, but we also believe that we want people that care about our product and our business, and you have to make a meaningful work environment. And part of that's wages in our capitalist economy. So here's our, our target audiences when we initially started. And I would say these are all true, but really the community is at the core. And then we have other markets that we serve, cafes, restaurants. And, there's different ways that we market it. This is kind of my marketing lingo here, but, and this is a brief kind of history of what I just told you. So there's nothing really new here. There's been times I've tried to buy buildings. Right now I lease buildings. This new one, I have an option to purchase, which would be an asset, which would be good for the business. But the other two places I rent. And and we now have the plans, it's 2003 now, and we're looking to maybe open that in 2004. And then we also are looking to go into a new commercial property that's doing a sort of a food hall concept here in Duluth, the Armory. And that's 2005, 2006. And I think maybe that might be it with some more wholesale. I'm not sure. That's kind of where my mind's at right now. My focus would be that we are all paying each other. The company's paying people well with benefits. That's really where I'm going with all this. So it's what do we need to do to get there? And that's what I continuously strive to try and figure out at this point, at this stage of the business. So that's all I have, Esther, really, on those photos.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. This is such a nice ending photo over the lift bridge, which is such a Duluth.
So Duluth.
So Duluth. Yeah. And with the view into Canal Park. Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's fun. So I'll stop share here. Okay. I think I got that.
Wow. It's so exciting, a production facility. That's going to obviously bring in more challenges. Do you feel as if at this point, your ice cream making volume is going to, is there anything that you have to learn in order to fit into a production facility as opposed to now? I mean, you're making small batches. That's part of your brand. Is that still going to be the same, or is it going to be, you're going to be increasing that?
Well, so our challenge right now mostly is that we don't have, like when we make ice cream, we can only make so much ice cream and then we run out of freezer space. And we could not make an ice cream and then I'll be like, okay, let's transport it over to this commercial freezer outside of this area. And because I lease, I'm really limited to space. I only have so much space. They can't give me more space because it's parking lots or, and they're servicing both the places I have businesses have multiple businesses that the real estate's on. So part of the growth is just like we have the capacity people wise, we don't have capacity freezer storage space wise. So that's part of it. We also really crunch when we make things like all of our inclusions, which are things like the nuts that we roast to put in, or like the honeycomb or the cookies. We partner with a bakery and we want to do that, but we could make some of our own stuff in-house. So we can be doing that. The one thing, and yes, I do have a bunch to learn about it. Like, how would we lay all that out? And then there's other things like we would still do small batch, but would we get a different kind of ice cream maker that might help us do larger batches than because we do 12 quarts at a time. So it's not a lot at all. We don't need to be doing, 100 gallons at a time. That would be a whole different operation, right? But there might be one that does, there's machines that can do like 24 quart or 50 quart. We do 24 quarts or 50 quarts or whatever, the larger batches, just bigger machines, but they're still the same kind of batch freezers. And there are these things called continuous freezers that just freeze continuously. Like a batch is you make a batch, you clean it out, you put another batch in, you clean it out. Continuous is like you can just keep putting the ice cream in your bait and it will continue to freeze it. And you can control like air content more. So we could be more precise. Like there's hardly, that's getting into the chemistry and the more, probably more than people want to know, but so maybe I'm learning on that for sure. We will be visiting some places to figure that out. And then of course we will now be in Superior in a community, and maybe there's some other things we need to do for that community, based on where we're at and what they have going on, kind of where we're located. So that will take some learning, and so yeah, so there's things we need to know for putting that together. And right now we're just in that space, realizing there's, somebody's fixing the roof today. We're pulling out, there's water leaking. We're getting through that. There's an animal living in the building. We're taking care of that, so it's like, we're just right now, let's just get things kind of cleaned up first, and then we'll start ideation on that space.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's with anything though. I mean, we dream about something and then we take the first step to make that happen. And then it presents like a little menu. Oh, and this is what you're going to learn. And this is the innovation. And this is, so I think what you alluded to earlier, that keeps you interested, right? There's a new thing, right? There's a new little knot to untangle. There's a new little like intricate thing I need to intellectualize, or I need to emotionally come into, a more fuller knowing of myself in order to take this next step and maybe chase the fear away if there is any, and really step into a faith process.
Yeah, I think that's super well said. I really think that is true. And I think that you kind of just hit it on the head. Is, at least I agree with you. And from my perspective, is it's just what's presented to you, right? And you can fight it, but it doesn't change that the animal and the pipes are broken, right? It's just, that's what you have today. So how are you going to handle this particular situation? And I think, like, for me, what I've kind of really learned to do through this whole process is just keep my head on straight and just take it, I'm not fighting it, trying not to be angry about it. And when I have those things that present that are joyful, and taking the joy, accepting the joy, and living in that too. So yeah, I was with someone the other day, and some things were discovered, and yeah, I get rattled. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I'm just like, it's going to be okay. We've committed to doing this. And at a certain point, maybe something would come in the way and say, no, this isn't going to work out. But right now it's like, we're committed to doing this. So let's just, see who's out there that can help us solve some of these problems, and put some, in this case, sweat equity into it. And, try to make today and whatever's in front of us palatable for tomorrow. Right.
Yeah. And when you were showing the pictures of the dairy that had burned down, I was thinking to myself how you talked about how you and that other ice cream maker in the cities both had that dairy, and how you changed your formula. And you were talking about silver linings, and how, like, this tragic event that you really could have gone down this deep rabbit hole of depression about ended up being, we can't say for sure, but possibly like the most beautiful turning point for your business, because all of those ingredients that weren't necessary and that you don't have to worry about, and you have a more natural, more whole product, they're not there anymore. And but for that happening, who knows?
Yeah. I would say that in that particular situation, it was a benefit in disguise. There were a number of things that it changed for me, and I'm grateful for that, not for their burning down at all.
No, of course not. And I'm glad the cows
things
live.
that made me think about, because I had the time and I wasn't just focused on, let's just do what we have to get open. It was more like, okay, now I have to figure this out. And, I have to say, Barb with the Pump House Creamery, she's very influential too, because she'd been in business for 15 years. So she was bringing 15 years of experience, saying, Nicole, I don't think we have to do this. I was like, okay, are you sure? So, and she's like, I was going to commercial places. I was like, okay, well, I at least can get some base from a commercial place, like a big, huge company that sells, to everyone. I'm like, I have to do something. And she was like, no, Nicole, that's not what you do.
It's always nice to have somebody keeping us in line. Remember your mission. Hello.
Hello, you're freaking out. This isn't what we do here. I'm like, okay. Yeah, right. Yes.
Oh, fabulous.
I know it is fabulous.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have any last things that you would like to share?
Well, first of all, how joyful you to do this podcast, Esther. I think this is great. You are doing this. I think for entrepreneurs to get a chance to reflect and talk about their journey, but also to share it to folks, who are, I think I did not pay attention enough, or maybe I didn't know where to find, for instance, women going into small business and hearing their experiences along the way, right? I think that now between YouTube and podcasts, there's a plethora of information out there. So that thing I would share is, to your audience, is go out there and seek out those stories, because you don't have to learn everything through mistakes. You can glean a lot from others. You don't have to always follow their advice, but you at least have that in your mindset. And you'll never know when you might need that piece of information out there. And other than that, no, come get some ice cream if you're in Duluth, Minnesota. We'd love to see you. And let us know you saw us on Esther's podcast or YouTube. Is it a YouTube channel?
It's a YouTube channel. Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah,
it's podcast-ish.
I know. I'm just not podcast-ish. The YouTube channel. We'd love to hear that you saw us on the show, and would love to show you, have you taste a lot of our ice creams. They're really good. Other than that, I don't have much to say.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been a complete joy to reconnect with you. It's in such depth. I've seen you over the years, but not to be able to have a full hour-long conversation with you. And I really appreciate your time. And as I said, it's been a joy to watch you grow, and it will be a joy to watch you grow in this next phase and expansion of your business.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And this has been really fun, Esther.
Excellent.